Hello everyone, welcome to session 9 on how to build a time tracker application with ReExt. I am Andres Villalba, I am a sales engineer at Sencha, and today I will be your guide. Before we start, I would like to remind you that we have all the previous sessions on our YouTube channel. Today, we have reached the end of our webinar series. We are going to be looking at some select topics. We are going to take a full look at what we did, and we are going to be answering some of your questions. So please, if you do have some, ask them in our question panel. We have finally reached the last session of our webinar series. I hope you have enjoyed all the previous sessions. There is a lot more that we can do with our time tracker, but I wanted to show you how to use ReExt, how to integrate it with React, and how to build a powerful application with these tools. So just as a quick reminder, we have learned how to install it, how to download it, how to bring ReExt components into React, how to create a navigation by using a tab panel, how to create some session management and its login form, how to create a grid by using a custom component and applying that grid as an admin grid and as a user grid, how to connect to the backend, how to apply some theming, and then we added some finishing touches and we created a dashboard with KPIs. Today, we are actually going to export data from our grid into Excel. Then we're gonna add a filter to the dashboard. We're gonna look at our full application and we're gonna look at some select topics like the ReExt designer. So without further ado, let's start. Okay, so let's start by adding the option to export our grids. Take in mind that this is a premium plugin, meaning that you need the architect version of our software. So if you only have the trial or the commercial edition, this won't work. But let me show you how this works and how to get those extra components into your project. And it's quite easy, but you need your SDK. So first, when you download your software, your SDK, you're also going to get the option to download these extra components. They are called EXT add-ons. And I have already unzipped the folder. So I have to take this whole folder and put it inside our public folder in our project. So basically, inside the same folder where we placed our SDK. So I'm just gonna grab it over here and drop it. Okay, and that's basically it. Once we have it there, we should be able to load it by just going into our code and adding what we need. So let's do that. I'm gonna go into my main file, and if you remember, over here it's where we import our packages. So I want to use the exporter, so here I'm just gonna say true. Okay. With that, we're letting ReExt know that we should include that package, just like we did with charts. Then I'm gonna go and modify the task grid and the task grid controller. Why those two? Well, one is because I'm gonna add the new option on the menu. So I already have the add new button. Well, right there, I'm gonna add another button. It's gonna say text export to Excel. And I'm also going to add some configuration there. And this property was created by me, could be some other name. I decided to call it CFG. And here I'm gonna specify the type. So right now I'm just gonna export as Excel '07, and I'm gonna specify the extension. So I'm just gonna say XLSX, okay? If I wanted to export with any other format, I can duplicate this and maybe try a CSV. Let's do it. So over here, I'm just gonna say CSV and CSV export to CSV, okay? And I need to call a method that it's actually going to perform the export. So I'm gonna add a handler. And if you remember, task grid had a controller, so I'm gonna call a method that it's going to be created inside that controller. So I'm gonna say do export. I'm gonna put that on both buttons. And then I'm gonna go into the task grid controller and I'm going to create that method right at the end. And this method is quite straightforward. So this is gonna receive the button that we click. That way we can know what type of file we're gonna export. I'm going to create a config property, and I'm gonna merge two arrays to do that. I can do it several different ways. I'm gonna use the method merge from XJS, and over here I'm gonna give it a title. So I'm just gonna say tasks, and then I'm gonna give it a file name. So let's say tasks too. Okay, and then I'm gonna add at the end the extension, and that's saved under button. And if you remember the parameter that I use, it's CFG. So I'm gonna type there CFG and then the extension. Okay, and I'm merging this array with the following one, which is button.config. This is creating the array to create the object, but I have to actually create it. So I'm just gonna call the view, this get view. I'm on the controller, it's going to load the view, and I'm just going to say save document as, and I'm gonna send that config property. Okay, and I am missing one more thing, and that's it. Should work after I add that. What is it? Well, this is a plugin, so I have to look for the plugin property inside my view. If I don't remember where I put it, I can search for it. There it is, plugins. And here I'm going to put the exporter, which its name is just grid exporter, and I'm gonna say true. Everything has been set up correctly. I'm just going to refresh my application, going to go into admin tasks. I'm gonna hit on options, and I'm going to export to Excel. As you can see, it was sent to my downloads. And let's open that one file. And I'm also going to export to CSV, and same deal, I'm gonna open that one. And this is how those files look. So one is just a comma separated spreadsheet, and the other one is an actual Excel file. We have more options, but I wanted to show you those two. Notice that activity, status, and productive are just their raw values. We can get the original ones, but for that we would have to set up a lot more for that exporter. And right now we only want to show you the basics. Okay, now let's do the next task that we mentioned at the beginning, which is adding the filter to the dashboard. Okay, let's just do that. So I'm going to open the dashboard, which I have it down here. Okay, let me close all the other ones. We do not need them. And I am also going to open the components that I created for the dashboard. Okay, there's something important that I have to mention that I already did, something simple. I need a way to reference those different components. So every chart that I have on my grid. Before, we learned how to do it with item ID. That's fine. But this time I wanted to show you how to give it an ID. Not an item ID, just an ID. So I gave a different name to each chart. Okay. So once we have that, we can close all those other files. And we're gonna use that ID to refresh those charts. Okay. Now we have our dashboard. We have the main configuration part of our dashboard and all its contents. If I go further down, I did the same thing of giving an ID to each and every KPI that I had. Okay, now right inside the config, I'm going to add a toolbar. If you remember, we can use T-bar to create a toolbar on the top of the screen. So there, I'm going to add a couple of fields. First, I'm gonna create a date field, okay, with a value right now today. We're gonna change that, but let's leave it like that. And then I'm also going to give it an item ID of start date, okay? And let's get this and do the same for the end date. Okay, of course, the best idea is to also have a label there. Um, and this way we have the fields that we need. And after that, I'm gonna put just a basic button. So X type button text, let's say reload, and we're gonna have a handler there. Okay, I'm just gonna do it right there. Let's see exactly what's going on now. And this is what we have. We have the start date, the end date, and the reload button. Okay, something else that we could do, we could take the label out because I think everybody will understand that this is just a period. Okay, but one, we're not showing a realistic date. We should be showing from the first to the last day of the month. Okay, and also if we have those dates, everything here should be loading again when we click on reload. Okay, so let's do that. And the way I'm going to do that, it's here on the button. So the handler receives the actual button, and then I'm going to set up here the dates to be sent to those charts. But before I do that, let's actually set a correct date here. So this is not the best way to do it, but I find out that it's easy to explain right now. So I'm gonna create the date by using the date method from JavaScript. So this is going to look kind of weird, but basically I'm creating a new date. I'm getting the full year. Then I'm creating another date. I'm getting the month from there. And finally, I'm just saying the first day of the month. And I'm sending that to my value. And for the other date, what I'm doing is instead of just getting the month, I'm adding one to get the following month. Even if it's December, this is going to go from 12 to 13, and then it's going to be recalculated into January. And I'm gonna type 0 as the day. Since days start on 1, when I type 0, it's gonna deduct 1 from the first day of the month. So now this is gonna go from the first of this month to the last day of the month. Okay? And we test that out. Here it is, first day to last day. And okay, let's get those parameters. So I'm gonna create a variable I'm gonna call params. And here I'm gonna say that the start date, okay, it's whatever we have on that date field. So I have the button, I can go up one level to get the toolbar. If I just say up, it will go up one level. I can also specify toolbar to make sure that it's loading the toolbar. And I'm gonna get the component. Remember that get component looks for the item ID inside that object. So I'm gonna look for start date, okay? And I'm gonna get the value. But this is going to be a date to the backend. I don't want to send a date object. I want to send just the string. So I'm going to use the xDate format method from XJS. And depending on how your server has been set up, I'm gonna format it either month, day, year, or day, month, year, or however you need it on your backend. Right now, I'm just gonna leave it like this, and I'm gonna also calculate the end date. And now I should be getting each those charts and changing the date to the store and reloading. So what I'm gonna do is get the actual component. So if I use xgetCMP, meaning xgetComponent, okay, so I'm gonna specify the ID that deadline task has, and that's called chart deadline, just like that, okay? Once I get it, I can get the store from it. So I'm just gonna say get store, and let's save it in a variable, okay? And then I'm going to override the proxy. I could add that method inside the store, but right now I just wanna do it this way. And here I'm just gonna send those params. And then I'm just going to reload the store. And that's basically it, but I would have to do that for every chart. So I'm gonna try to simplify this, but let's see exactly what's going on right now. This is only happening on our deadline chart, which basically it's the grid. So right now, if I click on reload, there won't be much that we can see, but let's say that I move to October and all those tasks have been finished. So that's going to be empty. Or what if I try just grabbing a few days from November? I'm gonna get something different, okay? So that's working with the grid, but we have to do everything for each chart and KPI. So it's gonna look weird if I have this several times, especially since we have 9 different options to update. So instead of doing it this way, I'm gonna create a method inside the button, and that's quite simple. So I have the X type, the text, the handler, and then I'm gonna create my own method. I'm gonna call it reload store. Okay, and this one is going to receive the name of the store and the params. And I'm gonna get all of that. I'm gonna put it here. Okay, and I'm gonna call it from over here. So I'm just gonna say button.reload store, and I'm gonna send this name. Okay, and I'm gonna send the params. Now instead of this value over here, I'm gonna say name store, and that should be it, and it should give us the same result. So I'm gonna switch to November. Sorry, I'm gonna switch to October. Let's reload, and it's empty because all the tasks there are closed. Okay, and let's do the same for all the other ones. So basically, I'm just gonna duplicate this until I have 9 different charts, and I'm just going to load those. So I'm gonna add billing, I'm gonna add distribution, activities, users, and then those KPIs at the bottom. Deadline met, less than 3 days, less than a week, and all tasks. And before we test, remember that these buttons are my own KPIs. So I don't have a get store method. I can either just change this to store and just get the store directly, or I can go into my KPI, which should be over here under public custom components, and here's a KPI box, and I can create that method. Basically what I'm doing here is just get store, and all I'm going to do is return this store. So the return this store, because if I don't do that, it's going to fail. Okay, so let's go test this out. As you can see, this goes from November 1st to November 30th, and this is what we are getting. If I add a few more days, you're gonna see some slight change, nothing too major. Basically, it's gonna change the amount of tasks over here, and you're gonna see a slight change over here. So let's try this one. This one is the average, 142. Reload, and now as you can see, it's 140 because the average, this is based on statistics, is going to be quite similar. Okay, and we have more tasks. And the billing chart is basically just this year, so that's not gonna change either. Okay, um, and that's basically it. That's how we can add a filter. There are other ways, but this is our own custom filter. So now let's continue with some other topic. Okay, as a final step, I'm going to be modifying the navigation. Right now, I only have one main tab panel that has all 3 sections. I would usually just go in and change these 3 depending on the user role. But right now I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to do that with the app.jsx file, and I'm going to have 3 different navigations. I wouldn't do that this way, but let's just do it this way for this time. So I'm gonna have a navigation for admin users. I'm gonna have a navigation for users, and of course the navigation for the system admin that we already have. So for the admin, I'm just going to leave their dashboard and admin tasks. And for the users, I'm just going to leave the my tasks panel. Okay, I'm doing it this way because I can get a few more extra things that I can do. For example, under navigation, I'm gonna say on the title time tracker application sys admin. On navigation admin, I'm gonna say manager. And on users, I'm just gonna leave it like that. I don't want the user to find out that there are different roles. So now I'm gonna go into app.jsx, and here I was loading the actual navigation. So I'm just gonna do a switch, and I'm gonna check the user role. So in case the role is it's one, that means that the user is a system admin. So I'm going to return this navigation. Then if it's two, that means it's a manager. And if it's a value of three, it's just a basic user. So I would be loading here navigation admin, navigation users, and just plain navigation. Okay. And I'm gonna be checking that role ID. And that comes as a string value, so I'm just gonna put that between quotes. Okay. And I'm gonna make sure that I am porting all three of them. I usually wouldn't do this way, like I said, but fine, let's try it this one time. And remember too that over here I have to match the name. Okay. And now that we have all these files, we're gonna change the color to each panel too. I have already set up two different styles with different background colors. So I have a class called admin title bar. So I'm gonna be putting that one in the admin panel. So over here, I'm just gonna say CLS. I'm gonna put that style there, okay? And then I'm gonna do the same for navigation users. This one is going to be users title bar, okay? So we're taking what we learned before, but now we're applying it to the whole window. So let me show it to you. If I log in as Rafael, he's an admin. Now the application has a different color because I'm applying this to the titles over here. So let me log out. And now let's log in as myself. And my user will have just the blue color. Okay, I'm going to log out. And finally, I'm going to log in as John Smith. And the color of the application is a different shade of green. Okay, so it's a way that I can tell that I'm on a different role. Okay, and I think we're pretty much done. Okay, and since we are almost done, it is time to recap what we learned. So apart from installing and downloading ReExt, we created this application. So we created the login panel that checks different roles. So we have a role for admin, system admin users like myself. That one shows with the color blue. It has a dashboard, it has the admin tasks, and it has my tasks. Okay. Then we added a button to know if I have a task running. So let's start one that is for me. I'm gonna click on, actually over here, I'm gonna select one for me, and I'm gonna start the task. And now we have that button that allows me to find and select the task that I'm currently running. We have an auto refresh. Right now that takes 60 seconds, and when the timer is done, it refreshes the grid. And we can stop, finish, and pause the task. So I just finished it, okay? And we can create new tasks from the admin panel. So I'm gonna assign this one to John Smith. Activity, let's say design. It's going to be assigned, let's say 2 hours, and it's due on Monday. Okay, let's save it. And I'm gonna sort through a different column so that it's easier to find. This is the task I just created. Now I can modify it if I want. I can delete it, but remember, this is a logical delete. I can recover the task if I selected it and hit on trash again. And we have the view details, okay, which shows us a bunch of information and also the history of that task. And then this is for the system admin user. This is colored blue and it says system admin here. I'm going to log out and then I'm going to log in as an admin. And basically we have the same deal, but now it has a different color and the menu has only the options available for this person. Okay, so I'm going to log out, be logging in as John Smith since he's just a basic user. Okay, and this is a different color and it has the same options. And over here we will be able to find the task I created for him a few minutes ago, which is this one. Okay, so let's say I want to start that one. Now that one is in progress. Okay, and if I want to stop it, I can stop it there. And I can actually go in and finish it if I want to. Okay, and let's view their details and it looks like this. I didn't change all the titles, that's why this is looking just as a plain blue, but you get the idea. I mean, it's something you can do later. And that's basically it. This is what we have on our applications. There's a bunch of more stuff that we could be doing. For example, if we go and check the kitchen sink, we have the premium edition of XJS and ReExt. We could have also loaded the calendar. Okay, but we don't have the time. I had to prepare the backend to return the information as needed to use a calendar. But if you're interested, we can probably just run another webinar about it, or you can check that out here in the calendar panel, here at the kitchen sink, okay? Another question that I was asked was about Google Maps. Yes, it does support Google Maps. I don't have the time to show it, but if I check the documentation, I can actually look for Gmap. And here we have an example of how to bring a Google Map. Okay, it's something quite simple. And we also have a blog entry where we explain something about that in a different way to do it. Okay, so if you want to check that out, just go to our either to our documentation or to our blogs, and you will be able to find some information about that. Okay, I was also asked about models. If you remember, we have been using stores, we have been using controllers and views, but I was asked about models. I haven't used any yet, and it's not a big deal because it's not required, but it's going to help me out. So if I go into our kitchen sink, you can see that this great example here has a view which basically describes what we're seeing. Then it has a controller that controls all the logic of the grid. Then it has a store that loads the data from the backend. And it also has a model that describes the data. So this one is describing that there's a field called name. There's another one called phone, and the type it's a phone number. There's a price, there's a price change, and some others. And there's also a new column called trend, and that one has a formula. So this one is not coming from the backend. This is going to get calculated on the fly, and it's going to be displayed and loaded as if it was coming from the backend. So this one is useful too. We did something similar with renderer directly on the view, but this changes a little bit. This is worked on the model instead. Okay, I'm not going to do it right now because we don't have enough time, but I hope that explanation helps you a little bit more. And there's also, apart from model and controller, there's another option called view model. And the view model, you can read more about it in our docs. And basically, what it allows you to do, it's to bind information and mix controller with a model. So if you go around and check view model, you will find more information here. As you can see, this one has bindings. So this is quite interesting. And that's if you are using MVVM, it will work like that. If you want to use MVC, as I showed during these sessions, then you have to do it the way I explained. Okay, so let's move to the next topic. Okay, for this next part, I'm going to download the ReExt designer. I can get it from this link over here. So I'm just gonna click on it and download it. Okay, so it's right here on my downloads folder. What I'm gonna do next is go back to our project and I'm going to add that. So I'm gonna go into extensions and I'm gonna say install from VSIX or V6. And I have it somewhere around here. It's under my Sencha folder. I'm gonna install that one. Okay, this designer over here was created by another sales engineer here at Sencha, and this will help you out create your own projects. So it's got several features. It lets you create the project, set up the SDK, edit, and browse. You can find more information down here, and this is what you need to make it work, okay? And it's got some explanation down there. So I'm just gonna enable it, and it's starting to run. And here it is. This is the plugin. So here we can look at the different options that we have. For example, this project that I created, it's letting me navigate through the options I have. So this is going to be quite helpful. Plus, we have those options that we talked about. We have the class name, we have the style, and we have some other options. Sadly, I don't have the time to go through all of these options today. I just wanted to show you that we are working on this ReExt designer and it will allow you to work with your project and our properties panel, okay? So it will be easier to work with. Instead of having to remember all the properties, you can look at them here. At least the ReExt properties, the XJS, you have to still look for them on our documentation. Okay, so I hope you like this new plugin that we have. We have reached the end of today's webinar. But before we close the session, I would like to share with you some useful links. First, we have the Sencha ReExt official site where you can sign up and download the trial. Also, we have the example site where you can take a look at some of our components at work and the code that create those components. We have our Sencha YouTube channel. We have our documentation, our XJS kitchen sink, which will show you most of the components there. And we have the Sencha Fiddle, which is a great tool to try some XJS code. Sadly, it doesn't include ReExt right now, but you can look at XJS classes with the fiddle. And the last two things that I would like to show you, it's the URL for the code repository for this time tracker. This is where you can download it, test it, and try it. Take in mind that the XJS SDK is not included, so you will either need a commercial license to use it, or you will need to use the remote SDK. And finally, we already took a look at the ReExt designer, so this is just to remind you where you can get that designer. Remember that it's just a beta right now, so it might have a few issues, but if you want to try it, you can get it from there. Okay, so now without further ado, let's continue with the question and answers part of our webinar. Okay, so like I was saying, this is everything that we had prepared. If you have any questions, please leave them in the question panel. We still have a few minutes. Um, I mean, we went through a lot during these 9 sessions. I don't know if you have any questions on how to integrate ReExt or what the future might be. Okay, I'm seeing here a question from Tony. He's asking if we're gonna have something similar for Angular. We don't know yet. We're doing some research. That's our plan, but it's that if that materializes, it's not going to be soon. Um, okay, let's see. Mark is asking me about RapidXJS and ReExt. Well, right now there is no integration. All we have is that other application that I was showing you, that add-on for Microsoft Code. I hope that one is helpful. It's still a work in progress, but I think it's going to be a great tool to work with ReExt. Okay, I don't see any more questions right now. If any of you have questions, please leave them in the question box. Um, even if you want us to build a different application, please just let us know. My email is right at the bottom. If you have any other questions, please contact me. If you want to learn more or anything else, please, anything related with ReExt, XGS, I'm here for you. I can try and answer your questions. I'm also being asked about those links that I had here. So once again, those are the most common links to our SDK and our website. And also, just as a reminder, this is where I have the code. That's our uh, our code repository. So if you want to download it, it's right here. I included several folders. I have the backend, which is basically just PHP code. This has no security and it doesn't have any layers or things like that. So beware of it, but you can use it. And if you use this, make sure that you go into server data and set up the database there. What else? And here's the database under SQL. All the passwords for the users are the numbers from 1 to 6, if you want to try that. And finally, the application is here under TT app. And as you can see, everything is there except the X folder like I was mentioning before. So if I go into public, you won't see here the SDK. You need to either download it or, like I explained, just go into source, main, and change the location to remote if you don't have it, or to local if you do have it. Also, if you try this and it's throwing an error, it's probably because you don't have the add-ons. So make sure to come here and deactivate the exporter. So if there are not any further questions, I would like to thank everybody for being here. It's been a blast creating this application for all of you. And I hope to see you soon on another webinar series. Have a great day and thank you, everybody. Yeah, 40 minutos.